Good morning. My name is Andrea Jenkins. I'm the president of the Minneapolis City Council, and I'm going to call this regular meeting to order for Thursday, April 27th. This morning we have 4 resolutions to present, which we will do before taking up our regular order of business. And the first honorary resolution is for Joan Hamill, and it will be presented by Councilmember Goodman, and there she is. Good morning, Councilmember.
Better? This one really tugs at my heart in a really incredible way because Joan and I have known each other for 30 some odd years, and she's a neighbor of mine and a constituent. And so it's very meaningful to be able to present this award. I'll note that they really think I'm old because they gave me large print. I'm pretty confident, I'm going to the eye doctor today, but I'm pretty confident I could read the actual resolution without the large print. Be aware, everyone, you might get large print. So those of you who know Joan know that she's worked at the city over 30 years and is the glue that keeps so many people and departments together. And I know this from knowing her. I also know this from working with her. And it's unfortunate that so many of my colleagues won't have the opportunity to get to know her the way I and probably 60 other council members have over your incredible tenure at the city. So this resolution is for you, Joan. Honoring Joan Hamill for her service and dedication to the city of Minneapolis. On January 26, 1987, Joan Hamill began her work for the city and has dedicated most of her 30 years of service in business licensing. Whereas Joan worked as a project coordinator for business licensing, where she has worn many hats and been a vital part of the department. And whereas Joan has been the gatekeeper for the very important council agendas, ordinance work, public hearings, and consent items submitted by business licensing, assuring that all documents were official, correct, included the proper requirements, and were accessible. Her work to implement the legislative management system ensured it was accessible for the department to use correctly and in sync with the city clerk's office. You would agree, right, Casey? Joan was responsible for our many, many license applications, documents, website presence, SharePoint site, work that requires creativity, innovation, and attention to detail. She supported the people who use those systems and coordinated with department partners to ensure process perfection. Joan has coordinated groups to create license applications, standard operating procedures, templates for the many documents the department submits, and most recently, the forms team, who overhauled the existing applications, making them more concise and user-friendly. Throughout her many years, she has worked with business licensing. Joan has helped coworkers with their gardens, painted houses, helped people move, helped people fix things, and she's been the official seamstress of the department. Her special skill and ability to host potlucks and office events created memorable moments for all employees. Her famous card group enjoyed lunch together over a fun-spirited game of cards. Whereas after more than 3 decades of service, Joan will enjoy her well-deserved time discovering new adventures, spending quality time with her incredible family and friends, and working on some of her many hobbies that include sewing, crafting, hosting galleries, tap dancing, and travel, just to name a few. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and city council honor you, Joan, for your significant contributions and commitments to the city and its residents, and express all of our deep appreciation for your service and wish you well in all of your future endeavors in the 7th Ward. Oh, I added that part.
Two of my friends from grade school. They came in
wow.
from Detroit this morning. We've known each other for 55 years. There's 5 more coming in. There wasn't room for the other 5 this morning. And my husband, Joe, of 38 years, still good. And I am very proud to have worked for the city of Minneapolis. I love this place, and my only message is take care of our city. Yeah. But I'm in Ward 7, so I'm not going anywhere. I know you are, but you'll still hear from me. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Joan. And anytime you want to come over and do some more painting or gardening, let me know. Congratulations. Our next resolution is honoring a very dear friend of mine and fellow artist, Kirk Washington Jr. And that honorary resolution will be presented by Council Member of the 5th Ward, Ellison.
Okay, is this thing working? Yes, it is. All right. Kirk Washington was a longtime North Sider, good friend of a lot of people on the council knew him, obviously, and I knew him really well. He was a mentor of mine. We both had an opportunity to do a program at the city called Creative City Making, and I knew him well before that. But it was kind of at Creative City Making where I really felt like he became a friend and a mentor to mine. And he passed not too long after Creative City Making had concluded, and. But people on the north side, people in Harrison, his wife Esther's here to receive the honorary resolution. People really remember him, and I think it's important that we hold up our north side heroes. So I'll read this resolution honoring Kirk Washington Jr. Whereas Kirk Washington Jr. was a poet, artist, author, teacher, farmer, visionary, and activist in Minneapolis, and whereas Kirk Washington Jr. was married to Esther Nebro and the father of 2 daughters, Azalea and Kia, and whereas Kirk Washington Jr. was a 4th-generation Minnesotan and a longtime resident of North Minneapolis, and whose career was built around speaking the gospel of North Minneapolis, and whereas Kirk Washington Jr. told the story and the stories of the forgotten, the oppressed, and the marginalized with verve, and whereas Kirk Washington Jr. left his mark on Minneapolis as a graffiti artist, a spoken word artist, and a storyteller, and whereas Kirk Washington Jr. reminded all of us that education is a lifelong journey through his pursuit of his academic endeavors at MCTC and Metropolitan State University. And whereas Kirk Washington Jr. was a creative city-making artist from intermediate arts that brought all of our communities and cultures together through the arts and conversation, now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the city council do hereby recognize May 9th, 2023 as Kirk Washington Jr. Day, honoring the legacy of service to the residents and communities of Minneapolis, including especially his commitment to the arts and the residents of the North Side. And with that, I'm going to present this to Esther. And do you want to say a few words?
You said it all, but I want to say I'm late because I was cooking something for that lady, right? Thank you for not forgetting Kirk. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I do want to just say thank you, Esther, for sharing Kirk with us and the city, and I would say the entire world. Kirk really touched and traveled all around the world to make things more beautiful, and so just want to honor that. Thank you, Esther. Our next resolution is a resolution honoring Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, And that resolution will be presented by Councilmember Chuck Ty.
All right. I'm going to have some folks from MAPE join us up here. Thank you. I'll start with reading this resolution and presenting it to you, and then I'll share some comments and ask you to do the same. This is honoring Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the city of Minneapolis. Whereas 32,000 Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders account for 5.6% of the city's population. And whereas the Asian Minnesotan population represents over 30 ethnicities, including but not limited to Asian Indians, Chinese, Filipinos, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Burmese, Cambodian, Hmong, Pakistani, Taiwanese, Bangladeshi, and Nepalese. And whereas the diverse Asian American community includes political refugees from war-torn countries, asylum seekers, immigrants, adoptees, green card holders, new citizens, and multi-generational American-born citizens. And whereas the city of Minneapolis recognizes the importance of supporting and uplifting the voices of its AANHPI residents, acknowledging their struggles and celebrating their accomplishments. And whereas Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities in Minneapolis face challenges, including underrepresentation in the city's workforce leadership, and disparities in areas such as economic inclusion, housing security, public safety, healthcare, education, and sustainable transportation options. And whereas the model minority myth hides the oppression AANHPI communities experience and distracts us from working in solidarity against our collective oppression. And whereas xenophobic and anti-Asian rhetoric continues to fuel unfounded fears and perpetuate stigmas against AAPIs and have contributed to the recent increase in violence against AAPI communities. And whereas Asian and Pacific American employees organized the Minneapolis Asian Pacific Employees Group to explore diversity among Asian Pacific employees, to find community in our similarities, and to find strength in our differences. And whereas employee resource groups provide valuable opportunities for the city to collaborate with historically marginalized staff to improve the workplace, as well as attract, hire, and retain employees and strengthen the mission of the city of Minneapolis to serve all residents in the city. And whereas the United States Congress passed Public Law 102-450 in 1992, which annually designates May as the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and city council do hereby recognize the month of May as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and celebrate the rich cultural diversity and contribution of these communities. Thank you. I'm gonna pass this off to you. Absolutely. I just wanna, I wanna thank our employees that are here and did a lot of work in putting this resolution together. Ultimately, I think it's really important for us as a city to condemn the xenophobia and anti-Asian rhetoric and all forms of violence and discrimination against our communities, and to work in solidarity to address these issues in the city. I think ultimately our goal is to build thriving, safe, and equitable communities where our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander residents experience abundance and joy and support, and where we can exist easier. I know that cannot happen if the people from our communities who work in this enterprise aren't supported. support in the form of words and in the form of honorary resolutions is really, it's nice. But ultimately, it's our actions that matter the most. And I reflect a lot on being a first, right? Being the first Asian American woman to serve on this body. And representation certainly matters for our community. It matters for our workforce. But it's not enough, right? What is it going to do for us if those who represent us and belong to our communities still move like those who are furthering our oppression? I think it's consistently going to be my commitment to demonstrate that that we have to continue moving in solidarity. I'm committed to moving in solidarity with you and in making it easier to work here and ultimately to serve the residents in our community. I know that starts with you being supported and valued in the work that you do every day. Thank you so much. And I'll ask if you can also add some comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Chuktai, Council President, Council Vice President, Council members, and I know Mr. Mayor is not here, but we definitely want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much. The step to recognize the community and to support it and taking actions to support it means a lot. It means a lot to the workforce that works within the city and also the community that they serve and also of what they are part of. So we really appreciate that these incremental steps of recognizing, supporting, and providing a platform is important. Every little bit counts. So we are moving in the right direction. It's a long journey. A lot has to heal. A lot has to be accomplished. So we thank you for your support for doing this, and we look forward to your continued support in the future. Thank you. Jimmy?
I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Chuktai for presenting the resolution, and thank you to all the council members here for supporting us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlie Ito. I use he, they pronouns. I've wanted to say I've worked at the city for 15 years and I haven't done this before, but it's very cool to hear council members reading words that we wrote. So I will be doing this again, I'm sure. I've mentioned in the past that it's wonderful to see such a diverse council that's reflective of the communities in Minneapolis. And I just wanted to dedicate this quickly to like the women and BIPOC staff at the city, past, present, and future, who have made this a place where I wanted to stay and work. I've had to say goodbye to a lot of them because they've left, whether they were burned out or found better opportunities somewhere else. But I'm really, really appreciative that they had the energy and inspiration to work together to create employee resource groups and give us some space where we can see each other and value each other and understand how we contribute and make the city a better place for it. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
I'm actually gonna add one more thing that I forgot to talk about. When I started at the city, Charlie was working in the clerk's office, and you gave me my laptop and my phone during orientation. And I haven't worked in an enterprise like this before. I was new to the city, and being young, being a woman of color, it was a very intimidating place to come into. And I just remember our first conversation and the kindness that you extended me, and it made me feel as though I could do my job really well here. Thank you for doing that. It was more meaningful than I can express. Appreciate it.
So our final resolution this morning is recognizing and honoring Public Service Recognition Month. And that resolution will be presented by myself and Vice President Palmisano.
Impressive. Good morning. We're here to recognize the month of May, so starting next week here, as Public Service Recognition Month in the city of Minneapolis. The council president and I, pretty short but sweet. Would you like to start?
All right. So this resolution declaring the month of May as Public Service Recognition Month in the city of Minneapolis. Whereas public employees are responsible for providing, planning, implementing, and responding to public service needs in our community. And whereas all people benefit from the public service provided by dedicated public employees. And whereas public service is a noble calling where people choose to spend a portion or all of their career building community, contributing to the public good, and improving the well-being of our communities. And
Whereas in the past year, Minneapolis employees endured continued challenges of the pandemic, negative energy and aggression projected toward public servants, additional stress and trauma, and difficult change. And whereas Minneapolis employees persevered to serve our community with professionalism, consistency, and a focus on providing critical services. And whereas Minneapolis employees, especially Black, Indigenous, and people of color and women, faced extra challenges in a duality of serving the community while also feeling the impacts of racism, inequality, and sexism. And whereas Public Service Recognition Month provides an opportunity to recognize the work and dedication of the people who choose to serve our communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved
that the mayor and city council do hereby declare the month of May as Public Service Recognition Month in the city of Minneapolis, a time to recognize and honor the contributions and dedication of government employees to our communities. That the employees of the city of Minneapolis are recognized for the significant contributions that they make and the challenges that they face each and every day, commended for their accomplishments, and are offered the sincere gratitude of Mayor Fry and the City Council on behalf of all the people of our great community for efforts to serve, protect, and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, businesses, and visitors to our community. Thank you to all of our city employees all across the city.
You know, public services has been difficult with the pandemic. We don't know any department that isn't facing staff shortages right now, and we know that you're all doing extra work. The kinds of jobs that we have here at the city are jobs you really have to show up for. Most of our jobs are not things that we could do from a living room for the past couple of years, and it's been tough, and we want to acknowledge that. Deb, did you want to say a couple words?
I'll never pass up the opportunity. I'm Deb Kruger from the Human Resources Department, and this really speaks to me as my job is sort of overarching hiring and recruiting at the city, and I think some of these words need to go on our job posting because that's the essence of what we sell, right? About coming to work for the city of Minneapolis and public jurisdictions is the nobility and the importance of the work that we do as public servants, But I'm here today as the chair of the Star Awards Committee, and I have some fellow committee members, as well as Casey Carl and Charlie, who was here. Oh, Charlie's there as well. Are members of the Star Awards Committee as well. We would like to thank the Council President Jenkins, Vice President Palmisano, and all of the council members and Mayor Fry for the passage of the honorary resolution today, recognizing public servants here at the City of Minneapolis during proclaiming the month of May as Public Service Recognition Month here at the City of Minneapolis. This resolution, okay, hang on. I'm getting weepy, actually. Sorry. The resolution and the acknowledgement of the importance and the nobility of public service is so important, and I think particularly in today's environment. For all of the whereases that were on the resolution. And the Star Awards Employee Recognition Program and the committee members strive to provide meaningful recognition for our employees who show up every day and diligently do the best work that they can. They provide outstanding public service. They bring forward innovative ideas to continually improve the services that we provide to our residents and the businesses in Minneapolis. They accomplish city goals that you've set forth. They provide outstanding leadership. And they foster an equitable and inclusive work environment that brings out the best in all of us. Every year, the Star Awards Committee hosts a award ceremony honoring our employees who've been nominated by their fellow employees for the outstanding work that they do. In 2023, the Superstars Awards ceremony will be held on Tuesday, May 9th. So my little pitch, my promotion, to honor and celebrate the 130 city employees who were recipients of Star Awards in the year of 2022. It's a public celebration, so please come out and join us. We'll be in the Public Service Center. And we will have a special recognition where Mayor Fry will announce the Superstar winners who are chosen from the group of 130 employees who won the Star Awards in 2022 and present them with crystal trophies. That will be followed by a brief reception and then recognition of those superstars at the Committee of the Whole meeting that same day. I am honored to receive the resolution on behalf of the Star Awards Committee and city employees, again, who show up every day and serve with a dedication and passion that inspires me and makes me proud to be their city colleague. Members? Charlie?
Really quick, I'm gonna add, I really like working with you on the Star Awards Committee. I really like that you're focusing on how to be more engaging with staff who are maybe not traditionally recognized for their work, who have not been part of the Star Awards process so far. I like that you're willing to think differently about how maybe we could do like video intake so people can find it easier to nominate each other without filling out forms or writing something really structured and formal or being intimidated by that process. I think that's the right direction for this work to go, and I'm really excited for the different ways that we can help staff actually receive that recognition in a way that is meaningful to them. So, also, shout out to Mental Health Awareness Month. I hope that people at the city can take some time to prioritize themselves and what they need, because that's how we get the best work for our residents.
If we can get a photo for it, it'd be great if maybe you could hold the resolution and stand right beneath the seal and we can move people. And if all of the council members wanted to quickly jump up and stand behind them so we can get all the council in the picture, that'd be great. Deb, put yourself right there. You what? If you want to come down, that's fine, but I can take it. No. Go there. I got it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everybody.
one of the best parts of this job is to be able to honor our community members and our staff and recognize the contributions that so many people make to make this a great city to live in. And so I thank all of our presenters today. And with that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll to verify that we do have the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Goodman.
Present.
Councilmember Wansley.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Osman.
Present.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Councilmember Koski.
Present.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Present.
Councilmember Chavez.
Present.
Councilmember Ellison.
Here.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Present.
Councilmember Rainville.
Present.
Vice President Palmisano.
Present.
President Jenkins.
Present.
There are 13 members present.
Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. And next we have the adoption of our agenda. Colleagues, the agenda for today's meeting is before us, and I'll ask, are there any amendments to the agenda other than the honorary resolutions that were presented at the beginning of this meeting? Councilmember Chugtai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe there's a paper copy of this in front of everyone, but I wanted to just make a motion to amend the agenda to include under our resolutions, the honor resolution honoring Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. That's the resolution I presented earlier.
Councilmember Chugtai has moved to amend the agenda to include the honorary resolution honoring Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native Hawaiian Heritage Month.
Second.
Can we just do a voice vote? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries, and that has been added to the agenda. Councilmember Koski.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I am putting myself in queue for Councilmember Ellison,
Oh,
who cannot,
Ellison.
the queue is not working.
Yeah, my computer's, I'm having all these technical difficulties. Thank you, Councilmember Koski. Yes, I would like to, I guess I'll defer to the clerks, but I'm bringing forward, I think all of you should have in front of you my motion to amend the agenda, to amend Title 21 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Councilmember Ellison has moved to amend the agenda, and it has been properly seconded. And I think maybe we can do a voice vote on this as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries, and that item has been added to today's agenda. And I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and the agenda is adopted. Next item of business is acceptance of the minutes from our regular meeting on April 13th. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and those minutes have been accepted. Finally, we have the referral of petitions, communications, and reports to the proper committees. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and those matters have been referred The next order of business is reports from our standing committees, beginning with the report from the Business Inspection, Housing, and Zoning Committee. The report will be presented by the committee's chair, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Business Inspections, Housing, and Zoning Committee is bringing 21 items forward for approval this morning. Item 1 is a license for Underground Leaf and Vine. Item 2 is a license for Albee Kitchen. Item 3 is amending our Code of Ordinances to allow skateboard ramps or structures on a temporary basis. Item 4 is a bond issuance for Alina Health System. Item 5 is denying an appeal at 223 40th Street East. Item 6 is denying an appeal at 2725 University Avenue. Item number 7 are the liquor license approvals, and 8 are the renewals. I will note half your agenda is taken up with liquor license renewals, of which there are 158. Item number 9 are the gambling license approvals. Item 10 is a license settlement conference at the Gay 90s. Item 11 is extension of exclusive development rights at 1500 4th Street South. Item 12 are grants through our Business Technical Assistance Program called BTAB. Item 13 is approving the appropriation of funds as it pertains to our home and NSP loan repayments. Item 14 is an award to the City of Lakes Community Land Trust from the Met Council. Item number 15 is the Deed Redevelopment Program grants that we're receiving from Deed. Item 16 is environmental brownfield grants that we are accepting from the state. Item 17 is approval for the county to contribute to the Whittier Community Housing Project financing at 2609 Blaisdell. Item number 18 is a similar thing with the county at Oakland Square, Talmadge Green project. Item number 19 is a few minor modifications to our NOAA Preservation Fund. Item 20 is a rezoning at 11 8th Avenue Northeast and 800 Sibley Street Northeast. And item number 21 is a forgivable loan for the Indigenous Peoples Task Force project that is part of the Clyde Bellecourt Urban Renewal Program at 2313 13th Avenue South. With that, I will move all items 1 through 21 for approval this morning.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman, and Councilmember Goodman has moved that committee's report. Is there any discussion? And I do see Councilmember Payne in queue.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I just wanted to thank my colleague, Councilmember Chavez, for co-authoring this with me, and I also wanted to thank Corey Bracken from Pillar Forum Cafe, a constituent of mine in my ward, and I think he was the best community representatives to speak on this behalf. That's Pillar Forum's a new coffee shop on Central Avenue, but it's a combination of a coffee shop and a skate shop, and it's just a manifestation of how this activity's evolved in our community, and it is this accessible way for our youth to get active and involved and out of trouble, frankly. And so we removed a barrier to allow folks to participate in this activity, and I'm grateful for also the City of Skate, which has been advocating for skateboarding as a recreation, both at the city and state level. So I'm just really happy that we were able to get this passed. So thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Payne. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and that report is adopted. Next is our Policy Government Oversight Committee, and the report will be presented by the chair, Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam President. The Policy and Government Oversight Committee is bringing forward 22 items for approval. One is passage of an ordinance related to appointed position in the Health Department, Director of Health Operations. 2 is passage of an ordinance related to appointed position in the City Clerk's Office, Deputy Director of Elections and Voter Services. 3 is authorizing collective bargaining agreement with ASME Water Unit from 2023 through 2025. 4 is authorizing collective bargaining agreements with Minneapolis Building Trades Unit 2022 through 2025. 5 is approving Capital Long Range Improvement Committee appointments. 6 is accepting a bid for high-speed overhead door replacement project. 7 is accepting a bid for Lindale Avenue North pedestrian improvements project. 8 is accepting a bid for 37th Avenue Northeast Road construction project. 9 is authorizing contract amendment with Black & Veatch Corporation for design and construction engineering services for the 10th Avenue Bridge water main river crossing project. 10 is authorizing a contract amendment with Ice Mortgage Technology, Inc. for loan administration software services. 11 is authorizing contract amendment with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for DNA analysis of Minneapolis Police Department case evidence. 12 is authorizing contract amendment with Fairview Health Services for clinical lab services for the school-based clinics program. 13 is authorizing contract amendment with Bolton and Menk, Inc. for engineering and design services for the Bryant Avenue South reconstruction project. 14 is authorizing contract with Hennepin County for continued lease of election tabulation, electronic roster, and assistive voting equipment. 15 is approving a legal settlement, Brian Cody versus City of Minneapolis. 16 is approving a legal settlement, Marquise Stewart and Liana Hood versus the City of Minneapolis. 17 is approving a legal settlement, Stephen Meldal versus the City of Minneapolis, but we are not giving Stephen Meldal any money. Just feel like I really got to drive that point home. 18 is approving a legal settlement, Harold Wright versus the City of Minneapolis and State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company. 19 is approving a legal settlement, workers' compensation claim of Ramel Bacon Brown. 20 is approving a legal settlement, workers' compensation claim for Jamie Karshbaum. And 21 is a passage of an ordinance for appointed position in the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Department, the Director of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And 22 is a passage of an ordinance for 3 appointed positions in the Office of Public Service, Deputy City Operations Officers. And with that, I'll move approval of all these items.
Councilmember Ellison has moved that committee's report. Is there any discussion? I see council members Wansley and Chugtai in queue.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to pull items 21 and 22.
Councilmember Wansley has requested to pull items 20 and 21. I'm sorry, 21 and 22. My apologies. Councilmember Chugtai.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to pull item number 20 out for a separate vote.
And Councilmember Chugtai has requested to pull item number 20 for a separate vote. So, seeing no further discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on items 1 through 19.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Chugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and that portion of the report has been adopted. I will first recognize Councilmember Wansley on items 21 and 22.
Thank you, Madam President. In regards to item 21, which is a appointed position in the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Department, specifically for the director position. I want to name, I did vote in support of this item in committee, but the more that I've thought about it, I don't feel like I can, in good faith, support this item today. Because to lose 2 highly qualified Black women D&I leaders in a span of 2 years indicate that there's something deeply wrong with the city enterprise. I know at POGO that our interim COO, Heather Johnson, shared that her office is planning to conduct an organizational analysis of REIB to get a better understanding of, what interdepartment dynamics is this that may be causing issues around retention of staff within the department. However, both former REIB directors have publicly named that the city's toxic and racist culture was the primary reason behind them being forced out. Neither of them named dynamics internal to the REIB department as the cause. They both described how they faced resistance, undercutting, and dismissal from other departments so severely that they were unable to do their jobs. It's because of their experiences and their testimonies that I cannot, in good conscience, bring another person into that kind of work environment. It's especially important that we take this role seriously and ensure that the person entering in it has a chance of success, because too often DEI work is used to give institutions a progressive image while being set up to fail at actually accomplishing anything. This is a well-documented phenomenon in both the private and public sector. So, in recognizing that simply having a race equity department does not inherently mean you're going to advance equity. The department actually has to be empowered to succeed. However, our city has clearly demonstrated an inability to keep on staff and a pattern of chasing out leaders, especially those of color, who are trying to advance systemic and anti-racist change. In fact, in the audit risk assessment that's included on our agenda today, it highlights that staffing and resourcing is a key risk factor for the enterprise right now. Let's take that risk seriously and minimize it by doing our due diligence to address the specific issues that's going on here. Something is clearly wrong with how our REIB department is relating to the rest of the city. While dozens of employees have testified before council over the past year and have talked about the toxic and racist conditions that exist here, I want to also note my office has received significant feedback from workers in various departments who have either left quietly or are on their way out for those very same reasons. So it's very clear we need to address the patterns and practices within the city that are harmful and inherently racist before we bring someone new in. You don't want to move a new tenant into a building that has structural issues. You fix the issues before that person moves in. So I will not be voting in favor of this item, and I encourage my colleagues who are also aware of the systemic issues this department has had with the city to also vote no as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Wansley. Did you want to address item number 22
Yep.
as well?
Yep, I can go on to item number 22, which is 3 positions, appointed positions in the Office of Public Service, specifically the Deputy City Operations Officers. I'm going to be voting no on these positions as well. I did share my concerns in our committee about the larger structural problems that government structure has posed in terms of interfering in a lot of our abilities to just do basic work. This is something that I've heard from numerous people across the enterprise, and even recent conversations with new executive leadership, as well as people who have been at the city for a long time, reaffirms that even they are unclear and confused about who they're supposed to talk to, what is appropriate or allowed, and even what their roles and responsibilities are as it relates to their jobs. There are not issues, or these are not issues that can be resolved by simply adding more people in middle management roles. They are organizational problems that require organizational solutions. And it's unfortunate that we rush through government restructure without addressing many of those concerns that I know I've raised, many other colleagues raised, and that those structural issues are literally coming back to bite us on a daily basis. So before we add new people to a broken system, we need to fix the system. And over the past several months, and even this past week, it's become clearer and clearer the council needs a fully staffed independent legislative department now more than ever. 2 days ago, council members voted down a legislative directive of mine for a fiscal analysis on the consent decree. And in that conversation, I do appreciate Councilmember Chuck Ty stating that had we had a legislative department, council members who had an interest of being transparent and communicative with their constituents about the real and long-term financial impacts of these consent decrees, we could have had a vehicle to get that information to be able to relay it to our constituents. We don't have this. And the advice that was given to us on Tuesday was to leverage whatever personal influence we have to get staff to privately provide us with the information that we need to provide to our constituents. Such advice not only places council members in direct violation of our newly government structure, but it is also inherently not good governance. One key characteristics of functioning governance is that they have standardized and predictable processes by which all council members or elected officials can access to do their jobs effectively, like having an independent legislative department. The state legislator also knows the importance of this, of having a fully staffed legislative department Both Democrats and Republicans have legislative staff charged with helping them fulfill their legislative duties. And I'm pretty sure that having such a resource at their disposal has greatly contributed to them being one of the most productive and successful state legislators in the U.S. right now. And we even heard this morning during the resolution presentation, but over the last few months, even, the past several weeks, department leadership, the mayor's office, and even my council colleagues have repeatedly told me that staff capacity is low and that staffing challenges is making it difficult for them to fulfill the legislative actions that my office and other council members are bringing forward on behalf of our constituents. While I'm understanding, that these are real challenges, my constituents elected me to fully use my legislative, budgetary, and oversight authority to create the changes that working class people desperately need in our city. Similar to our lawmakers, council members urgently need more independent and nonpartisan staff to help us be effective in our duties and responsibilities. That said, we should be prioritizing staffing and resourcing a legislative body before these three positions because they will actually support council in doing the transformative and equity-centered policy work that our residents are looking for us, this body, to accomplish.
Thank you, Councilmember Wansley. Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to speak fairly briefly to item number 21. We are aware of staffing as a risk factor everywhere in every department across our organization. Last year, the consensus of this body was overwhelmingly to have race, equity, inclusion, and belonging as its own independent department. Now we have to give it resources. So putting a director position in place to this department seems like an obvious step. Our city leadership, our COO, is quite aware of the challenges that have been spoken about in this department and the challenges of doing that work here thoughtfully and the challenges that we've had accomplishing that work over the past year. I know that they are looking to have some organizational development help to make sure that we're setting this position up for success, but I do think we need to resource this position. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Council Vice President. And next in queue is Councilmember Payne.
Thank you, Madam President. I came in today very confident in these votes in terms of just we're moving forward with implementing government structure. This is just another kind of technical step in that. Councilmember Wansley is raising some really important issues that's making me waver a little bit. I do believe I'll be voting yes on these today, but I think we really need to take to heart what Councilmember Wansley is describing here. We can't just be following the momentum of these actions because we are really running into problems when it comes to fully staffing what our needs are as legislators. And I also want to speak to the Office of Race, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. We just passed a resolution honoring public service, and we've made a lot of strides to supporting our staff, and we understand the challenges they're facing. I want us to make sure that we are including all staff when we're talking about that, because we have seen time and time again folks having to come up and step to the dais to share with us what's happening within our institution when it comes to what it's like to work here. And so we have to support our public works employees out in the field, and we need to support our staff inside of City Hall all the same. So I'll be voting yes on these today, but I really think you need to take Councilmember Wansley's words to heart because we can't just brush over some of the challenges that we're facing. So,
thank you, Councilmember Payne. Seeing no further discussion on items 21 and 22, unless now I see Councilmember Chugtai in queue.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to ask us to split 21 and 22 and vote on them separately.
Councilmember Chugtai has requested to vote on items 21 and 22 separately. So first we will take up item number 21, the appointed position in the Race, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Department. the Director of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes and 1 nay.
That item passes. Next is item number 22, 3 appointed positions in the Office of Public Service, Deputy City Operations Officers. Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Nay.
Councilmember Chavez.
Nay.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes and 3 nays.
That item passes, and now I will recognize Councilmember Chugtai on item number 20, legal settlement, workers' compensation claim of Jamie Karshbaum.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to just pull this for a separate vote. I'm planning on voting no on this item, but don't have any discussion to add.
Seeing no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll on item number 20.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Nay.
Councilmember Chavez.
Nay.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes and 3 nays.
That carries, and that completes the report from the Policy and Government Oversight Committee. And that report is adopted. Next, we have the report from the Public Health and Safety Committee, which will be presented by the Chair, Councilmember Vito.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Health and Safety Committee is bringing forward 5 items. Item 1 is accepting a Justice Assistance Grant from Hennepin County to support Police Department and City Attorney's Office initiatives. Item 2 is authorizing the submission of a grant application to the U.S. Department of Justice to hire 10 additional police officers over 3 years. Item 3 is the passage of a resolution approving changes to the public art policies and procedures. Item 4 is authorizing agreement with Health Center Career Connection to host a public health intern in the health department. And item 5 is approving appointments to the Community Commission on Police Oversight. I would also like to amend this item to reflect the withdrawal of James Westfall, the Ward 12 appointee. Seat 12 will remain vacant pending a nomination. I'll move for approval of these items, including the amendment to item 5.
Thank you, Councilmember Vital. Councilmember Vital has moved this committee's report, and I will ask, is there any discussion, and recognize Councilmember Payne.
Yeah, I'd like to just, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to just pull item 2 for a separate vote. And I know Councilmember Johnson wanted to actually speak to his position on CCPO, if you could jump in.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear. Councilmember Payne.
He's in queue. I just want to pull item 2 for a separate vote.
Councilmember Payne has requested to pull item number 2 on the PHS committee report for a separate vote. I will recognize Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just wanted to explain item number 5 in that amendment, and I appreciate that from Chair Vita. So James Westfall was my appointee for this seat, and he actually reached out late yesterday to let me know that he had the opportunity of a lifetime come before him, and he would no longer be able to fulfill in good faith the commitment to serving on the CCPO given that. And so that's a bittersweet thing for us. Certainly, he was very well qualified, and I was excited for him to serve in that role. But also, an opportunity of a lifetime is something people just can't pass by, and I understand that. And so we wish him all the best with this new adventure for him, and appreciate his willingness to step up and serve, and would certainly welcome his application in the future for this commission. And then I have already been in conversation with our wonderful director of civil rights about bringing forward another appointee in the next council cycle. So I wanted to make sure that I share publicly what is going on with this particular seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. And next in queue is Councilmember Chuck Tai.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I wanted to I want to speak on item number 5. Won't be pulling it out for separate discussion and vote, but I wanted to actually start by thanking our Civil Rights Department. Our director is here in the audience today. You and your staff have done such a tremendous job on getting this new Community Commission on Police Oversight up and running. You've been so thoughtful and communicative with council offices, and I just wanted to make sure that you were appreciated and thanked publicly for your work over these last few months, and your work on putting together the ordinance to create the Community Commission on Police Oversight along with Council President Jenkins. I know that I'm personally just really excited for this body to get up and running. When we passed this ordinance creating this body last year, I know we repealed the police conduct oversight commission, the PCOC, and so in that time we haven't had civilian oversight, and this is an important step in making sure residents are directly influencing some of the, or residents are directly have a role in oversight of our police department. We had over 160 residents apply to be on the CCPO. That's incredible. I know that was the result of a lot of work from every council member who's here and from our staff. It's very, very exciting to see so much resident interest in getting to work on this. I did, however, want to just point out that of the 15 of the 15 seats that are on this commission, we have 2 representatives from wards 3, 7, and 13, and there's something that just doesn't sit right with me, knowing that some of our 3 of our most affluent and 3 of our most affluent wards are overrepresented, while Ward 6 isn't. There isn't a resident from Ward 6 who's here, and just for us as a body to be reflecting on the choices we make when those who are most impacted by discriminatory policing have less of a voice in how oversight works. I also am very excited for all of these residents to get to work and to be supported both by civil rights and by our council offices in serving out their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chuck Tai. And next in queue is Councilmember Vital.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to quickly thank all the Ward 4 residents who applied to be on this commission. We had an overwhelming amount of folks from my ward who wanted to take part in this work, and I'm so proud and grateful that they did so. We did select Melissa Newman. I just saw her through the window. I think she disappeared. But we selected Melissa Newman, a longtime Ward 4 resident, and she's been really instrumental in how we talk about public safety in our ward. I also wanted to thank Director Gillespie for the work. I know I said it in committee, but this has been a wonderful process. people felt welcome to apply for this because of the work that was done in your department and getting it out there and letting folks know exactly what was going to happen on this commission. And so again, I want to thank the Ward 4 residents. I've been talking to Director Gillespie about how we could continue the work with the folks who didn't make the cut and like what role they can play in public safety moving forward. So I'm going to keep having those conversations. And that's it for me, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Vital. Next in queue is Councilmember Osman.
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to say that Ward 6 does have someone appointed. We know AJ Awad is someone who actually ran for this seat in the past, and he's the director of the neighborhood organization on Cedar Riverside. He's very well known in the community. He's the past resident of Ward 6. He just happened to live right now in Ward 3, but his work and his knowledge of the community is why I appointed him in this position. I want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Osman. Next in queue is Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. I also want to thank our staff for assisting with this process. I am very proudly appointing Mary Swinton to this position. I know Alberta knows how strongly I feel about this. She has served as a previous member of this panel. She comes to the panel with some level of knowledge and expertise and passion for this work as an African-American woman living in this city in the 7th Ward. And I will note that although she lives in the Lakes portion of my ward, I am very proud that the mayor has appointed LaTanya Reeves to represent him on this panel. LaTanya lives downtown, and I will note that neither of the picks from the 3rd or 7th Ward are downtown residents. LaTanya is also a renter and represents a part of my ward that is very mixed income. And so to suggest that just because there are 2 people from the 7th Ward that everybody is monolithic, I guess one thing that would be similar is they're both women of color, but they live in very different parts of the ward, and to not have someone representing downtown, given so many of the public safety and policing issues downtown, I think would be unfortunate. So I am thrilled the mayor has appointed LaTanya, and I'm very proud of my appointment. I'm proud of the fact that the 7th Ward has 2 people, both women of color, who have been very committed to this work. Thank you for agreeing to serve.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman. Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Madam President. I too want to join the chorus. Director Gillespie, thank you so much for your hard work and what a great job you did and all your staff. So thank you so much. And I want to thank Paul Olson, who I appointed. Paul, in particular, served in Seattle, working for their attorney there on police matters, overseeing the discipline and the conduct of the police. In addition, he was on the co-counsel for the consent decree that Seattle had from the Department of Justice. So he brings incredible expertise to this. We're so fortunate that he applied. I thank Paul, and again, I thank you, Director Gillespie, and all your staff. This is a great motion forward. I also see another appointee in the office. Thank you for stepping and volunteering. You will be subjected to a lot of criticism. I hope you have some tough skin, Tanya.
Thank you, Councilmember Rainville. I did put myself in queue to really just thank the director of the Civil Rights Department, Director Gillespie, for working with me to create this ordinance. I think it will provide some significant oversight, some desperately needed oversight over our Minneapolis Police Department. I am thrilled with the level of interest and support from the broad community to participate in this process. And I do want to recognize Ms. Reeves, who has been appointed to this body, and thank you for your service. But thanks to all of the appointees, as well as those who stepped forward. I had a number of applicants in Ward 8 who really wanted to participate in this process. And, you know, certainly we can't have everybody, but I want to work with Councilmember Vital to understand ways that we can incorporate the broad interest in this process in the work moving forward. So seeing no further discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
This is items 1, 3 through 5.
On items 3 through 5.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and now I will recognize Council Member Payne, I believe, on item number 2.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I wanted to pull item 2 for a separate vote. I made some comments in committee, but I want to restate those comments here. This is a federal grant. The motion before us is to allow MPD to apply for the grant. So this isn't the award of a grant. And there's a significant amount of administrative burden to apply for some of these grants. It requires matching funds to be able to, if we were awarded the grant. And there's a number of restrictions on these grants. And I just want to talk about what problem we're trying to solve. And part of the problem that we're trying to solve is the staffing of MPD. And this grant doesn't solve that problem. Our problem is not a funding issue. Our problem is a labor market issue. And you can't use these dollars to provide hiring incentives. You can't use these dollars to provide bonuses. We could have a debate on whether or not that would be effective, but either way, that's not what these dollars are for. And I think that what we really need to do is we need to focus on recruitment, not the administrative burden of applying for federal dollars. And so I'm going to be voting no on this today.
Thank you, Councilmember Payne. I see Councilmember Wansley in queue.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, thank you, Councilmember Payne, for raising those concerns and highlighting some of the actual key challenges that's happening within our law enforcement workforce. But I do want to name, this grant is to have the city be able to possibly, if we were awarded, receive $1.25 million to hire 10 additional police officers over 3 years. I do want to name my particular concerns about our recruitment efforts. And I've been in contact with our HR department, have not heard a response as of yet. But my concern is the push to do recruitment and not actually have a rigorous vetting process of officers that are coming here to fulfill positions or serve our community, and not having a very rigorous and very consistent process has led us already to hire someone, Officer Tyler Timberlake, as the most recent example, who came from Virginia, who was a police officer there, and was shown and proven to assault an unarmed black man just days after Minneapolis police officers, basically Derek Chauvin. I'm sorry, I'm speaking. Thank you.
Can you please enforce decorum equally?
Thank you. Cool. So, former officer, Virginia officer Tyler Timberlake did this days within Derek Chauvin murdering George Floyd, and for some reason thought Minneapolis was a good place to come to. And we would not have been made aware of his particular case hadn't a journalist brought it to the public light. So I'm very concerned about what type of internal processes are we having to make sure that we're not bringing on the Derek Chauvins of police departments from all across the U.S. and thinking that they can come here and get away and do similar things that those officers did. And from my understanding, we have a shared goal of hopefully doing mitigation, so we're not paying out $40 million for misconduct of one officer and not trying to grow that problem. But it seems like we're still kind of stuck in developing those internal processes or vetting processes within our human resource department. I don't know if it's within MPD leadership, because I don't understand how this officer still fell through the cracks of that. And I'm concerned in our process and moving forward with these type of recruitment efforts that we're going to continue to bring on similar caliber of officers that already have extensive histories of doing misconduct and harm against marginalized residents in other places. And for some reason see Minneapolis as a great place to continue doing that, or our Minneapolis Police Department being a good place to continue doing that. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting this item.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next in queue is Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Madam President. I also spoke to this at the committee level too, and I want to repeat my remarks. I do want to thank Director McPherson for her efforts in applying for these grants. I will be voting yes on this. This is a large grant. Should we be successful, the officers would focus on gun violence and violent crime, two big issues in our city. And it's great that the federal government wants to help us out. I really appreciate Andy Lugar and his efforts to help us tamp down the violence in the city. So hats off to Director McPherson and to Andy Lugar for helping us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rainville. Next in queue is Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam President. I was late to committee on this item, and I just wanted to ask, what is the match that we would have to make if we were awarded this grant? If the attorneys know, or if Director McPherson knows. If nobody knows, that's fine. I guess my big concern is that whenever we apply for these grants, I think the public maybe is under the impression that this is free money, and if this were actually free money, I'd probably support it, but it's not free money. This money's going to cost us, and we're already putting well over $1 million into recruitment and trying to get folks on the force, and so taking on another $1 million that we will then have to match to some degree, and we don't really know, at least at this moment, what the match would be. It just seems really irresponsible to me. We put in $6 million just in 1 year a couple of years ago to get this, to get us up to the recruitment we need. If the federal government wants to help us, they'll send some guys, right? Like that's what they'll do. This money will just kind of go into a pot. We'll continue our recruitment efforts that we're already moving forward on, that we aren't underfunded on. And I think that to Councilmember Payne's point, this is not where the city's hurting, and I would hate to see us have to be forced to put more money into this should we be awarded. And so again, because the money is not actually free, that's why I won't be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellison. I will recognize the city attorney.
Council President, just to make the record clear with respect to the officer that Councilmember Wansley talked about, my understanding is that he was criminally acquitted from those charges, just to make the record clear.
Thank you, City Attorney Anderson. And next in queue is Councilmember Osmond.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to talk about general issue that I have in my community. It really saddens me to get a text message from the inspector, maybe daily or twice a week, that there's shots that's taking place here. We have crimes and violence in our community, and we need the help of the state and the federal to tackle this. Our local government, our local police doesn't have the capacity to even cover the 911 calls. And I have 3 precincts in my ward, and each inspector is struggling with staffing. And we have a violence and gun violence in our communities. So just want to kind of point that out. I had a conversation with the chief and the mayor, and really want to make sure that we are recognizing that people are hurting, especially people of color, who are 80% victims of gun violence and crimes in our city. We got to do something, and we do need the help of the federal and the state to tackle this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Osmond. I'll recognize the city clerk.
Madam President, I wanted to respond to Councilmember Ellison. The information you requested regarding the total local matches and the background analysis of the RCA that's in your packet. So To answer that question, the total amount of the grant award would be $1,250,000 over a 3-year period. It would pay $125,000 for each of the 10 positions that were provided. As part of that match, the local match over a 3-year period from the city would be $2.4 million, works out to be $800,000 per year for the officers that would be covered by the original grant.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And that does answer my question. We would be expected to put in more. The match would be higher. So this is very expensive money.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And next in queue is Councilmember Chuck Tag.
Thank you, Madam President. This grant is, for hiring 10 additional officers that are gonna support the city's efforts to address violent crime and gun violence. And violent crime and gun violence are absolutely a problem that, like Councilmember Osman pointed out, disproportionately impacts the city's Black, Indigenous, and people of color residents and poor and working class residents. It is important that we do all we can to address this problem. I think I want to make clear, I think Councilmember Payne started talking about this a little bit, but we, in our last city budget, council adopted budget, we have allocated the amount of money for staffing to meet our charter minimum. And our current staffing level within MPD is under that charter minimum. So there is lots and lots of money that is already allocated for hiring more officers. The problem isn't having enough money for hiring officers. The problem is we can't hire them quickly enough. So we're trying to address violent crime and gun violence by chasing extra money to hire officers when there is an abundance of money already in the MPD budget for hiring that is not being fully used right now. And the recruitment efforts, there's so much that goes into why that might be the case, but I think that while it's really, really important for us to figure out how to address these problems, I struggle with the assertion that we need to allocate more money when we're not using the money that is allocated right now, despite best efforts. And certainly we need to work on figuring out how to support that. But just wanted to make clear, the money to hire more officers is allocated. The Minneapolis Police Department is fully funded for hiring at the charter minimum levels, which is something that the council is mandated to do.
Thank you, Councilmember Chuck Tai. Next in queue is Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The RCA is clear that this does not require any additional money from the police department or the city's budget. So the existing city police budget would be used as the match for the federal funds. Period.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman. I had put myself in queue because that's what I thought was the case as well, but I recognize Council Vice President Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam President. I'll just add that where does that money go, right? We allocate all this money to a minimum staffing charter amendment. That money largely goes to overtime, and that absolutely puts more and more on the shoulders of fewer and fewer staff. So if this is an incentive to be able to recruit additional officers, yes, we will pay into it. With some of the existing city budget that comes from our city taxpayers, then that's a good goal and measure to meet. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I will recognize Councilmember Payne for a second comment.
Thank you, Madam President. And that was exactly my issue with this. We actually can't use this as an incentive. There are restrictions on it. It can only be used for the salary for entry-level positions. And so we are fully funded to meet the need for our staffing. The funding is not the challenge. The challenge is the labor market, and do we have a department that is attractive to people who would want to serve? So we're not solving that problem with additional grant dollars. The grant dollars are restricted. We can't use them for incentives. It's essentially just additional administrative work, so there's an opportunity cost to that. We need to take the funding that we've already allocated and make it work for us. And I'll remind everyone, we actually signed a contract that had bonuses already. We've already passed incentives. We've already done some of that work. This grant doesn't give us any additional leeway in that regard.
Councilmember Vito.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to remind everyone that this vote today is just for us to apply for these funds. We're not receiving anything. And if we do receive the funds, we already have existing money in the budget to match this. And I do understand some of the concerns, but again, we're just voting today to apply for the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vito. And I guess I would just add that, yes, we have the resources allocated for this. However, if we receive the restricted grant, then we can use those allocated resources for other concerns. And so consequently, I will be supporting the department's efforts to receive federal support to help us bring more police officers that we are desperately needed in this community. Councilmember Wansley.
Councilmember Chavez, Speaker Management isn't working, so I'm in queue for him.
Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Council President Jenkins. I do have one more question. Does the federal government know that we have the money for police officers and that we're going to basically be taking this money and be using it for our other resources to provide public goods to the residents of Minneapolis? That's a question for staff. Because essentially, we have the money to hire police officers. There's no funding issue. The city council unanimously funded the charter minimum. So essentially, it seems like this money is going to be used to then provide a public good for other resources? Okay.
I thought it was restricted to hiring.
That was the
point that Councilmember Payne has made.
Exactly. My point is that applying to this isn't actually going to do anything.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm not sure if there's anyone to answer your inquiry. And seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Nay.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Nay.
Councilmember Chavez.
No.
Councilmember Ellison.
No.
Councilmember Vito.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 8 ayes and 5 nays.
That item carries. Item number 2 on the Public Health and Safety Report, which completes the report, and that report is adopted. The next report we have is from the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee, and that report will be presented by the Vice Chair, Councilmember Koski.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Works and Infrastructure Committee is bringing forward 17 items for approval today. Number 1, project approval for the Mill District Street resurfacing project. Number 2, approving amendments to the Water and Sewer Code. Number 3, authorizing negotiation of easements for the 2023 Parkway Paving Program and ADA Pedestrian Ramp Program. Number 4, authorizing a cooperative funding agreement with Hennepin County Regional Railroad Authority for the repair of the Martin-Sabo Bridge over Hiawatha Avenue. Number 5, authorizing a cooperative agreement with Hennepin County for proposed multimodal improvements along Lake Street and Lagoon Avenue. Number 6, passage of a resolution authorizing concurrence with the Shingle Creek Watershed Jurisdictional Boundary Update. Number 7, approving an appointment to the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Number 8, approving an appointment to the Metro Blue Line Extension LRT Community Advisory Committee. Number 9, authorizing a joint powers agreement with the City of Columbia Heights for the 37th Avenue Northeast Street Reconstruction Project. Number 10, authorizing an agreement with Hennepin County for the 37th Avenue Northeast Street Reconstruction Project. Items 11 through 14 are approving large block event permits applications for, the first one is number 11, Cinco de Mayo block event that will be held on May 14th. Number 12 is Art World to be held May 19th through the 21st. Number 13 is Warehouse District Live to be held all weekends from May 26th through October 29th. Number 14, the Edina Art Fair to be held June 2nd through the 4th. Number 15 is authorizing permanent and temporary easements for the 15th Street Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project. Number 16, accepting a grant from the Board of Soil and Water Resources to construct green infrastructure improvements. And number 17, adopting the 2023 to 2025 Minneapolis Vision Zero Action Plan. I move approval for all 17 items.
Thank you, Councilmember Koski, and the councilmember has moved that committee's report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Payne.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to talk about the Vision Zero Action Plan. I'm really excited about how that's moving forward. The one thing I just wanted to raise for this body is leveraging technology such as red light cameras as a means of slowing down traffic and keeping our streets safe. I'm very torn about that because we have a huge problem with red light driving. We have a huge problem with people speeding on city streets, and I really do see the benefit of reducing police interactions through this type of technology. There's been a lot of thought put into how we might implement these red light cameras, and I thank our staff for being thoughtful about that. But I do want us to make sure that we're thinking more comprehensively about these surveillance technologies, what their public benefit is, what the costs to our civil liberties are. I worked with Vice President Palmisano on an ordinance that would provide us a framework for evaluating these technologies before we implement them and put some transparency into the process. I believe, I'm not sure, Mr. Clerk, there was a legislative directive to investigate other jurisdictions around how they're managing that. I think we could use an update on where that work is, because I believe it's not going to just be red light cameras. There's going to be a lot of different technologies that will have real public benefit, but we need to have a process of evaluation to make sure that we're getting more benefit than the cost to our civil liberties, and that there's some protections to people's civil liberties in implementation of some of these technologies. So I wanted to make sure that that's part of this discussion, and maybe kind of openly making a request that we get an update on where some of that legislative work is.
Thank you, Councilmember Payne. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee report.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and that report is adopted, and that does complete the reports from our standing committees. I will note that there was a Patterns and Practices subcommittee during our COW meeting this past Tuesday, in which we received a report from the city attorney regarding the MDHR update. And with that, the next order of business is the notice of ordinance introductions. And there is a notice by Councilmember Goodman to amend Title I relating to the general provisions, amending provisions related to city employees authorized to issue administrative citations and offenses subject to administrative enforcement. And that notice is hereby given, and no further action is required at this time. Next, we have the introduction and referral calendar. Councilmember Ellison moves to introduce and give first reading to an ordinance amending Title 21, interim ordinances, adding a new chapter providing for a moratorium on the establishment, reestablishment, or expansion of commercial laundry, electricity generation plant where energy is produced through combustion, general industrial uses listed and described in sections 550.30 F3 of the zoning code, scrap/salvage yard, metal milling facility, or waste disposal facility, which will be referred to the Business Inspections and Housing Committee in the next cycle and requires unanimous consent. Are there any questions from council members on that introduction? Councilmember Ellison.
I'll just speak very briefly and maybe ask the attorneys for any additional help if it's needed. But you all know that there's a lot of concern in the community. I know that we have this concern on the north side. I hear it from constituents all the time about polluting uses. And we also know that staff is currently in the process of rewriting what kind of uses are going to be allowed in the city. And so while staff does their work, I wanted to make sure that I felt like a moratorium would be appropriate to make sure that work doesn't get undermined in the meantime. So I'll leave it there, and I hope to have, obviously, I need, unanimous consent on this item, and I hope that we have it on the council today.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellison, and thank you for bringing this introduction forward, and I will be supporting referring this item to the Biz Committee in the next cycle. Is there any further discussion? City Attorney.
Thank you, President Jenkins, council members. Councilmember Ellison stated the nature of this motion well. One thing I'd just like to clarify for the public as well is that from a legal perspective, this moratorium is effective today, assuming the council votes with unanimous consent to approve it. And that's different than any other legislative process that the city or the city council typically follows. The language of the draft ordinance is in your packet, and that would be considered at a subsequent public hearing at Biz, as noted. But the moratorium itself is effective as of today, assuming the vote to approve. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. And Councilmember Rainville. Councilmember Rainville? Oh. Okay. I will say no further discussion. I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and the ordinance will be referred to the Business Inspections, Housing, and Zoning Committee for a public hearing. But as noted by the city attorney, the moratorium is now in effect. The next order of business is resolutions. And we have 4 honorary resolutions that were read at the beginning of the meeting. Are there any further comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt those resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and those resolutions have been adopted. Colleagues, I will note that we do have a request for a closed session today. Before we move to closed session, I would take up any announcements first. Do any of my colleagues have announcements to share this morning? No announcements. I know that next week is May Day, and Minneapolis has a strong history and tradition of celebrating and recognizing May Day. It's also Cinco de Mayo, and so there will be a number of celebrations going on next week in regards to those two items. And it seems like we have some visitors here in City Hall who have been watching our meeting. And I just want to say hi to you guys. I know you can hear us out there, so hello. And with that, we have completed our regular items on our agenda, and we will now consider the request for a closed session, which is for two litigation matters as listed on the agenda. Before I close the meeting, I'll recognize the city attorney to provide the legal basis for the requested closed session.
Thank you, Council President, council members. The next items on the agenda are two litigation matters. First, the litigation matter of Smith and O'Beary versus City of Minneapolis, a state court matter. The second, the litigation matter of Andrew Moore versus Tony Partica, Neil Walsh, John Doe 1, and John Doe 2, number 2, and the City of Minneapolis, a federal court matter. Your lawyers wish to discuss with the council litigation strategy and/or settlement possibilities. Accordingly, under the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Minnesota Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, the council may, upon a proper motion, close the meeting for the purposes of attorney-client communication. In considering the motion, the council should weigh the right of the public to know what its government is doing against the need of the city to preserve the confidentiality of its discussions with its attorneys.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. And with that, I move that our public meeting be closed as authorized under the provisions of the Open Meeting Law, specifically Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, for the purpose of discussing the litigation matters of Smith and O'Beary versus the City of Minneapolis and Andrew Moore v. Tony Partica, Neil Walsh, John Doe number 1 and number 2, and the City of Minneapolis. May I have a second to that motion?
Seconded.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Osmond.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtime.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and we will now close the public portion of our meeting and convene in closed session for the viewing public. I'll note that the broadcast of this meeting will continue, and the council will reconvene in public after we have concluded the closed session. Thank you. Is now 12:19, and the city council has reconvened in open session. Following the closed session, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Goodman is absent. Councilmember Wansley.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson is absent. Councilmember Osman.
Here.
Councilmember Payne is absent. Councilmember Koski.
Here.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Present.
Councilmember Chavez is absent. Councilmember Ellison is absent. Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Councilmember Rainville.
Present.
Vice President Palmisano.
Present.
President Jenkins.
Present.
Councilmember Chavez is also present. And Councilmember Payne. There are 10 members present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And I will recognize Councilmember Vital to bring forward a motion.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that all claims against the City of Minneapolis and any of its named or unnamed employees, including claims for attorney's fees and costs asserted by Gina O'Beary in the matter of Smith and O'Beary versus the City of Minneapolis, be settled in the amount of $25,000 in the following manner. One check in the amount of $14,805 payable to Gina O'Beary, for which the city will issue a Form 1099 miscellaneous, and one check in the amount of $5,695 payable to Gina O'Beary's attorney, Smith Law, for which the city will issue a Form 1099 miscellaneous to each of Gina O'Beary and her attorney. Further, the city attorney's office is authorized to execute all documents necessary to effectuate this settlement.
Thank you, Councilmember Vital. And Councilmember Vital has moved that settlement agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman is absent. Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson is absent. Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shugtai.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Vita.
Aye.
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Vice President Palmisano.
Aye.
President Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That passes, and with that, we have completed our business for today, and with nothing further to come before the council, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Thury.
There's my buddy.
I've been a veterinarian for 14 years.
Hello.
I love medicine, I love science, I love animals. Great combination. I've wanted to be a veterinarian since I was a small child. Growing up in a household where my mom bred miniature schnauzers, so my entire childhood we had puppies,